She started out selling Girl Scout cookies to later become an international sculptor. And she'll tell you her story next on It's Lifestyle. Stay tuned. Hello, I'm Gina Wooham. Welcome to It's a Lifestyle, where we interview people with interesting careers and hobbies, which for my guests, it's more than a career. It becomes a lifestyle, and I'm hoping my guests inspire some of you to gather your hidden talents and aspirations. Tonight's guest is an international sculptor. Please welcome Lisa Mathews.
Hi, Gina.
So let's talk about childhood, even as early as 5 or 6, and activities that perhaps foreshadowed your present success.
Okay. Well, when I was about 5 or 6, my father was probably one of the first fans that I had, my first cheerleader. I consider myself a daddy's girl, so he always encouraged me to pursue things, and early on, both he and my mother kind of noticed that I like to sketch and draw a lot, and so began to encourage that by, buying me, different drawing materials and things like that, and recognized early on that I had a creative spirit. And so from there, they made sure that I was doing things like Girl Scouts and Brownies that had me very active in the community. And then I went on to start dancing. I started taking modern dance.
Now, wait a second. So let's go back a second. You were talking about your dad being your biggest mentor. So how did that affect you in some of your activities?
It affected me a great deal because, just to know that your parents believe in you and encourage you to such a degree where he always reinforced and told me, how smart and pretty and talented I was. So once you hear that, and you want to, and then it became a situation where I wanted to please him and my mother more than anything. So just to recognize my gifts and talents and be willing to be my biggest cheerleaders. They were always there for all of my award shows and performances and things of that nature.
Well, now, early on, even your teachers noticed your talent in art.
Definitely, particularly my art teachers, of course, and they encouraged me as well, encouraged me to join all of the different things where I had to submit art for different types of awards and prizes and things like that. So always encouraged me to enter those types of things and to show my creative talents.
But as you were alluding, you also wrote poetry, and you also got involved with dance. And how did your talents compare with your talents in visual arts?
Well, it was just an extension of that, I think. I mean, my main passion was drawing and visual arts. But as a result of my creative spirit, I mean, I loved to go into the kitchen with my mother. I loved cooking, and I still do to this day. And I think that that's even reflected. My father says I make pretty food. I mean, so that's visual for me.
So it wasn't as if when you got into dance and you got into jazz and you got into some of your African classes that you were going to forego your visual artist.
Not at all. I just think it enhanced it. It just gave me a broader appreciation, for what really inspires me in my art today. So it was an extension of that creativity and that visual that allowed me to be able to expound upon and to be able to look within and around my surroundings and experiences to be able to capture that.
Now, as you're moving on towards high school and then going towards college, what was your focus at that time?
Well, my focus was continuing to submit artwork and things like that throughout high school, and then when I started looking at colleges and trying to decide what I wanted to pursue, by that time, I was really into fashion a lot. I loved clothes and fashion, and I had done a little bit of modeling, not a lot. My father kind of discouraged me from that.
Why?
I think he had a thought that, that it was something that could pull me into something that he didn't really want me being. I don't think he really had a good, thought as to what models did and the kind of lifestyles that they lived and things like that. So
And
I
on
think
some levels, he's probably right.
right, yeah, some of the things, the environment and things that you get around. So he kind of discouraged. He really wanted me to tap into my creative talents and to be more academic than to depend on my outer beauty to really do something that was more of a passion for me. And although I liked modeling, a lot of people, because of my height and stature, thought that I was model material. He discouraged that.
Yes, you definitely, even today, were like model material.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But anyway, so through high school, then by this time I'm dancing and doing modern dance and African dance. And so as I started making the decision on colleges and really what I really wanted to pursue, and because I was into fashion by that time, then I decided I really kind of wanted to pursue fashion design. And that became my interest, and that's what I applied for colleges with that in mind.
We want to hear more.
Okay.
And we will next. I'm looking for commitment. We'll be right back.
It's the #1 cause of blindness in adults. It doubles the risk of heart attack and stroke. If trends continue, 1 in 3 children born today will face it in their lifetime. 1 in 4 people who have it don't know it yet. And 1 in 5 Americans are at high risk of developing it. Together, we can stop a disease that burdens and shortens life. Help us raise awareness, raise research funds, and raise hope at StopDiabetes.com.
Get a job.
Look, it's a giraffe!
I don't see it.
The less art kids get, the more it shows. Are yours getting enough? Art. Ask for more. AmericansForTheArts.org.
You know, we sing for millions of girls. But helping out in schools, that's the real deal, baby. I know our love can multiply, 'cause you're the X and I'm the Y.
I'm the cute one, you know what I'm saying?
So, have you ever been backstage before?
Okay, guys, this is an abacus, an old school calculator. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Like the circle and the square, our geometry is a perfect pair.
Now, why should kids know about gravity?
Well, gravity holds them down.
I once was one, but now we're two. I'm spinning out of control.
Hi, I'm Ellen Bryan, a Miss America hopeful from Ohio. This is my sister Christina. 9 years ago, she was struck by lightning while working on a golf course. Her injuries were extensive and permanent. Christina and I are here today to tell you how to protect yourself. Lightning can strike up to 10 miles away in all directions from a thunderstorm. If you see lightning or even just hear thunder, go indoors and stay there until 30 minutes after the storm has passed. Just remember, when thunder roars, go indoors.
We'll sit back down. I see you made it back, and you're here with It's a Lifestyle, and we're talking to international sculptor Lisa Mathews. Let's talk about your very first job out of college.
Very first job out of college was in retail. Worked for a company for about 3 or 4 years. Started in sales and quickly moved through management and managed my own store for about a year. And then after that, ended up leaving retail and going into the corporate environment. And pursued a career in corporate for probably over 20 plus years.
Wow.
Yeah, after leaving college, I actually moved here to Atlanta And
now, what made you move to Atlanta?
My now ex-husband. Then my boyfriend moved here out of college, and after about a year of living here, we married. So I married very young and started a family very young, and as I said, left retail and went into the corporate environment to start pursuing a career in employee benefits. So
now, in the midst of all this, where's your art? Are you just...
My art got, in the midst of that, was put on the back burner for a long time. Being married so young, starting a family so young, and working to try to support that family, put the passion at the side and started pursuing a career in corporate to help support my family.
Now, at this point, were you feeling as if you were making proactive decisions that would last the rest of your life, or was it just something that you knew eventually you would bring back, or did you know?
Actually, I didn't know. I kind of came from a family where my parents put us first, and I know probably made a lot of sacrifices, and because I made the decision to marry so young and to start a family so young, I felt that I had to put their needs first. So,
and you did make a sacrifice.
Yes.
You waited until your daughters graduated from college.
Exactly. Married young, then divorced. So I was a single parent most of that time, and so working that corporate job, and quite honestly, probably miserable while I was doing it. But again, my daughters are my life, and I feel like probably would be the best thing that I do in this life. They'll be my true legacy. So I wanted to take the time to be a mother and to provide for them. So.
And let's talk about this a second. So they graduate from college. Mm-hmm. Was that the minute you said, okay, what am I going to do next?
No, not exactly.
Take us down that path.
Okay. My daughters are also artists, and really wanted to make sure that they pursued their passion, because I knew that for years I had worked jobs within the corporate world that I didn't like to help provide for them. And so when they started looking at what they wanted to do, what career path they wanted to take, because they had also exhibited all those creative talents throughout school and art. I think my oldest daughter, probably watching all the old Disney movies, decided she wanted to be an animator early on. And so she never wavered. And so when it came time for her to pursue that, we looked at different schools, and Savannah College of Art and Design just seemed to be the perfect fit for her because it was here in Georgia. And so she started off first, and then soon after that, they were about a year apart. And my youngest daughter was loving fashion, and SCAD also has a wonderful fashion program, so they both attended SCAD. And about going into my youngest daughter's third year, found out that she was expecting. And so that pretty much started us down a path to where I really had to start reevaluating some things. And so at that particular time, they were both in Savannah attending college. And so then my oldest daughter stayed in college in Savannah, and I moved, as God would have it, SCAD opened a campus here in Atlanta. And so I moved my youngest daughter. She immediately transferred back here to Atlanta and never missed a beat. She continued going to school, and
God works in mysterious ways.
He does, exactly. And so when she was ready to deliver, she delivered. And again, I ended up taking about a 30-day leave from corporate at that time. And when it came time for me to go back, I was working for a law firm at the time. And the firm administrator asked me, because she knew me well, we, kind of gotten to know one another. She knew what my passion was, and she knew really what I was wanting to do long term. And so she asked me, she said, "Do you really want to come back?" And I said, "Not really." And so it worked out to where I just took that step. I said, if I'm going to ever do it, by this time my oldest daughter had graduated, and my youngest only had a couple of more quarters to go, so I made the decision not to go back.
So you make the decision not to go back.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do face to face on that very first day, that very first week?
The very first week, just really sat down and started trying to figure out how I was going to actually make a career out of my passion. And as God would have it, I started just making pieces at that particular time.
And now, is this the point where you are introduced to the polymer? clay?
No, actually, I had started using polymer clay when my daughters were probably in middle school. They needed to buy some things for a craft project, and I'd actually come upon the clay at that particular time, and I started out actually making jewelry, little beads for jewelry. And as I began to work with the clay and just kind of play, and then I had actually gone back to the craft store and ran upon a book on actually how to make sculptures. And so then I kind of started thumbing through the book and reading through and kind of getting a sense of what it took to actually sculpt a piece, and just began doing it. So basically I'm self-taught.
We want to hear more.
Okay.
And we will next on It's a Lifestyle. Don't go anywhere. Sit back down. We'll be right back.
Is she thirsty or diabetic? Is he tired or arthritic? Subtle behavioral changes can be early signs of disease in pets. These changes are often less obvious in cats, which can be better than dogs at hiding illness. But a wellness exam from your veterinarian twice a year can help detect, treat, or prevent many health problems before they become serious. So call your veterinarian and schedule your pet's wellness exam today.
These are the children who had no chance. They're known as Brazil's street kids. They wander the streets dying by the thousands from drugs, AIDS, and bullets. Most of them have been abandoned, left to survive on their own. These children needed a place to go. I had to do something. So I brought it up at Rotary. People heard about what we were doing and asked how they could help. Together, we raised funds to give them a home and open the school. They're learning a trade. Now hundreds of kids have a family and a future. They're contributing to the community because Rotary believes in making things better for everyone.
Rotary is making a difference right now.
They have hope.
Rotary gives people an opportunity to help.
Global warming is a problem.
It's a problem.
I wanted to do something to become more energy efficient.
To protect the environment.
To protect the future.
So I turned to Energy Star for help.
Energy Star is helping me be part of the solution.
Everyone can join the fight against global warming. Go to EnergyStar.gov to learn what you can do.
Together,
we can all make a difference.
Welcome back to It's a Lifestyle, and we're back talking to international sculptor Lisa Mathews. So you were talking about discovering your polymer clay, finding a book on making sculptures, and creating your first. Tell us about your very first sculpture.
Very first sculpture, as I said, flipped through the book, really started kind of looking at what it would entail to make a sculpture. And I remember staying up all night creating this sculpture and becoming just absolutely in love. You know, it's like a light came on. And from that point on, I would work that job during the day, my career job in corporate, and then I would come home and pick my girls up from school and get them situated and put to bed, and then all night would just sit up and make these sculptures and just fell in love. And the first sculpture was, I believe, African lady holding a bowl, and then made some other sculptures that basically characters that I pull probably out of the culture, African American culture, because that's what inspires me. Reaching back through generations and the things that I remember growing up as a child, I created a series called Old School Child's Play that's reminiscent of when I was a little girl. Well, I played jacks and double dutch and hula hoop and all the things that I did as a child. So that's where I draw my inspiration from, the culture of African American and African culture. So.
Well, now, as you are building this business, what are some of your first steps towards actually taking it to the public?
First step was selling to basically friends and family. They rallied behind me and really started encouraging me once again to pursue my passion. And so basically word of mouth, just people, telling other people about what I did, and seeing my pieces in my family and friends' home. And the first thing that probably really brought me out to the public was about 3 or 4 years ago. I did the Black Arts Festival here in Atlanta that they have annually. So that was kind of my coming out. And that probably propelled me into doing this as a career faster than anything, probably, because and just doing that and selling out of my pieces, basically, by the time the festival was over, that alone encouraged me and was very affirming. But then just to be around my other peers that were other artists who have been doing this probably for 20 or 30 years and have had great success in pursuing their art form, whether it's been painting or sculpting or quilting or whatever. So that probably was better than selling the pieces, really, just to be able to talk and collaborate with my other artist peers.
Well, now you talk a lot about where you get the inspiration from. Mm-hmm. So what other components have to come together for you to start a piece?
Well, basically, I guess it would be life experience, but again, it's just really drawing. African American culture is so diverse, and so there's just a wealth of things to draw from. So,
well, do you look at a piece and you say, okay, this piece is going to have hair, so I have to go out and it has to be a certain kind? I mean, how does all of that come together? And does that have to come together before you begin, or does it come along as you're going?
Yeah, it comes along as I'm going, because a lot of people ask me, well, do you sketch out pieces first, or, and actually it doesn't. I'll sit down sometimes with really nothing in mind and just start sculpting, and it becomes whatever it is. A lot of people ask me, aren't you amazed that you can do this? And I tell them that I don't think I do it. I think it's God working through me. He's the ultimate creator. And so a lot of times I sit there and just start, and a piece becomes whatever it is. There are other pieces that I'm about to start now that where I've had been commissioned to do certain pieces. One lady asked me, she said, well, can you do a piece of me? And I said, well, I don't know. And so she gave me a picture, and lo and behold, I was able to do it, which really blew me away. And then my daughters I started, actually, one of my signature pieces is an African tribal chess set. Which I love doing because the characters are so animated, and each piece, each pawn, each king, queen, they're all individual personalities, so it becomes almost like a little human person in itself, whatever the face expression comes out to be, or their stature, or whatever. And so in doing that, I decided to expound upon the chess sets, and my girls are so into the hip-hop culture now. They said, well, why don't you try doing a hip-hop chess set? And so I said, okay. So we quickly, that is one of probably the first pieces that required some research, where I had to go on the internet and actually bring up pictures of actual artists, hip-hop artists. And so started sculpting that, and was amazed that I could actually sculpt a likeness. And it's totally constantly evolving. And
well, now you do chess sets, and then you do individual sculptures, but you also do something called shadow boxes. Where did that idea come from?
Well, that idea came from once I did the Black Arts Festival, and I started really meeting other artists, and made the decision at the time I was living out. My daughters had graduated from college and decided to venture into the city to try to find a place to live in the city to get closer to where the action is, so to speak. And moving into the loft community where I now reside, ended up meeting another artist, a fellow artist who is a painter, and he has been fortunate and blessed enough to be able to have a long-standing career. And he actually kind of took me under his wing, and is probably what I would consider a mentor at this particular point. And really, he looked at my work, and when I first told him what I did, he said he is originally from Trinidad, so he still has that thick accent that I try to mimic, but I won't do it here. And he said, well, I don't like figurines. And I said, well, you know, and that really kind of scared me, because I'm like, oh no, he's probably not going to like my work. And I took him to my loft, and he saw them, and he looked at me, and he said, I love them. And he said, these are not figurines. They're sculptures. And I said, okay. and so basically started with him, and he kind of started exposing me to a lot of the renowned African-American artists that live and reside here in Atlanta and, you know, abroad. And he recently opened a gallery that's also in the same area of town, and it's called Stuart McLean's Gallery. That's off of John Wesley Dobbs. And so he is a long-standing artist and now a gallery owner. And so that kind of exposed me to getting out into pursuing or putting my art out into a gallery setting, which most of my work is carried in his gallery at this time. But then, in order to give me even more exposure, he began taking my pieces on the road with him. He offered to do that in terms of mentoring me and really trying to get me out there.
But how did the boxes?
The boxes came about because when I originally was doing the 3D work, so they were all mounted on stands. And the first show he took me to, I called him and I said, how's it going? And I could hear it in his voice, the stress. And he's like, I can't take these on the road, because polymer clay is my medium of choice. And it's very delicate. It's not like ceramic. It's not a poured piece where it's a mold. Everything's done from wire and sculpture is around that. So it's all pieced together and sculpted by hand, each individual piece. And so it becomes potentially very delicate. And so he was like, everyone's coming and they're wanting to handle and pick it up, and because they're so animated that people are naturally drawn to them and want to pick them up. And so he was like freaking out, because he was like, they're going to be broken.
How you had
so he said, we're going to have to think of something else. And that's how he came up with the idea of shadow box.
What advice would you give others that would like to follow a similar career path?
The same advice I gave my daughters: to pursue your passion, pursue what you want to do and what God gifted you to do in this world. No matter what your life circumstances are, it's never too late. I started pursuing mine at age 45. I say at the young age of 45. And it's never too late.
Lisa Mathews, genius that you are. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us here with It's a Lifestyle. If you have someone you would like to see, call at the number you see below. You can also email me at ginawooham@yahoo.com. Have faith in your dreams, but most importantly, have faith in yourselves. Exactly. We'll see you next time. Thanks.